I'm about to walk into the room, and I look to my left, and sure enough, there is a full-blown tall shadow man standing right behind where that door is right there.
What's strange about this whole situation is Ethan hears that voice. Not a minute later, you hear this scream, this screech.
Did you hear that?
What?
I heard like a scream or a groan come from like down further.
Like down that way?
Yeah. Do you wish to harm us in any way?
Get out of here.
It's one of the most unsettling places I've ever stepped foot in. There is not 1 second that you don't feel like you're being watched or like something just doesn't want you there.
Right then and there, the Red Master starts going off. And from there on, we start getting responses through necrophonic that are directed towards us.
Edinburgh Manor was an institution located in Jones County, Iowa, that was used to house the incurably insane, the poor, and disabled elderly. Prior to its establishment as Edinburgh Manor, a poor farm resided on the property from 1840 to 1910. It was a place meant to give solace to the insane, the lazy, the disabled, and the poor. In exchange for labor around the farm, tenants received housing and food. From just 1850 to 1910, over 150 deaths would be documented on the property, with causes ranging from sickness and disease to violent attacks and suicides. When the poor farm was demolished in 1910, Edinburgh Manor took its place in 1911, opening its doors as a care facility for disabled elderly patients. It would go on to become an orphanage, and finally, a group home for people struggling with addictions before shutting its doors for the final time in November of 2010. From the time Edinburgh Manor opened until its closing, another 80+ deaths were documented on the property. This place has seen so much negativity in the time its doors opened, and many believe that the souls of former patients and residents are still trapped within the walls, forever repeating the final moments of their lives. Many investigative teams have gone on to document fascinating evidence from this place, with many teams all having similar experiences with the evidence they've captured. Disembodied voices, loud bangs and knocks, cold spots, full apparitions, equipment malfunctions, and a myriad of other things occur when wandering the halls of Edinburgh. It's one of the most active places we've ever been to, and we're excited to share with you the evidence that we've captured.
Usually when you go into places like this that have this kind of history, this really dark history with a lot of negative energy trapped within the walls, you feel the place as soon as you walk in. I mean, we did. As soon as we walked into the back door with the tour guide, it's every hair on my body stood up. And I just got this instant feeling of anxiety the minute that we stepped in there. And usually that's something that doesn't settle in for a little while after you get to a location. You start to warm things up a bit and get activity, and then as things pick up, it gets more intense. But in this case, it was the minute that we walked in. 15 minutes after we walk into the building, we're in the basement getting the tour, and we're learning about the Joker, and we're learning about the other residents that potentially stay down there. And sure enough,
I was touched on my back, like a finger going down, and this is at noon, middle of the day.
There's noises, there's voices, there's all kinds of things going on around us while we're getting the tour in the middle of the day.
After getting touched, we went back upstairs with Cindy, and we were hearing knocks come from each end of the hallway, back and forth, playing with us. And Cindy was standing there like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening right now.
It was incredibly active while just being in there for that short period of time. The activity doesn't let up the entire night. The whole time that we're in there, this whole investigation is just one thing after another. Something is always happening constantly.
During this investigation, we were hearing talking the whole time. Like you could hear a conversation from, let's say we were on the first floor in the home base nerve center. We could hear a whole conversation happening upstairs between like women. Like I said, this place never stops. It is truly incredible.
So this is it. Famous Edinburgh Manor.
Edinburgh Manor. We have the whole place to ourselves, and we are locked in here all night until what?
Tomorrow evening?
Tomorrow evening. So this door is now officially locked.
That's it.
Locked.
We're locked in.
We're in here, man. We're doing it. I saw a shadow figure already down this hallway. Scared the shit out of me. Because I was showing them. Because I was showing them. Because I was showing them. Hallway. Scared the shit out of me. Because I was showing them.
Not even 2 minutes into the building, we had just locked both the doors, and Ethan begins describing to the audience what he saw earlier in the day. And it was described as a very tall, about 7 foot tall, actually, shadow man while he was doing a live stream. 2 minutes. 2 minutes in, and we're already capturing intelligent EVPs that are trying to communicate with us. Didn't want him to be afraid.
Because I was showing them.
This is just the very beginning of these EVPs. There are so many in this episode that we could not mark them all.
On my live, on Instagram Live, a room where a man himself. And I was about to walk into the room, and I looked to my left, and sure enough, there is a full-blown tall shadow man standing right behind where that door is right there. And it rattled me to the core. Where do you want to start?
That's a good question. I was thinking maybe I'm feeling kind of drawn down to this way.
Yeah?
Maybe we start down here in the wings and
And we'll go down that way.
yeah, we'll work our way down. Every time you make like the slightest noise, I jump out of my skin. I'm so jumpy right now.
Make sure you have your headphones in because you're not going to hear them without them. They are the craziest EVPs I've ever heard. Absolutely the craziest. I mean, full sentences, intelligent responses. There's conversations being had amongst people. It's mind-blowing. It really is.
Skin. I'm so jumpy right now. This is where I was when I heard you like shout out about that figure.
Yeah.
I was all the way down here.
And this is.
Figure.
Yeah.
I was all the way down here.
And this is.
Figure.
Yeah.
I was all the way down here.
And this is the entire opposite side of the building, so you know I was terrified.
Yeah. He was all the way down that way.
Once we had locked up and got all of our equipment set up, figured out what we were going to take throughout the building, we decided to move down to the first floor left wing, closer towards home base. It was a residential area. You can see a lot of beds and wardrobes are set up in that area. And we were just going to start doing a spirit box session first, just try to get some kind of form of contact, make communication, try to get some activity stirred up.
Get out already.
Yeah.
Is anybody here with us? I'm sure you know how to use one of these by now. You can use energy. can say words, and you can use the white noise to talk to us. Is there anybody here with us right now?
Yeah.
Can you tell us your name?
I did already.
I didn't hear you. What was it? Billy?
Do you know my name? Can you say my name?
So usually when we start these investigations, we like to try a simple method just to establish communication at first, let them know who we are, whether that be via spirit box, necrophonic, EVP recorder. Usually right when we start the sessions, we never get direct responses like we did here. And what's weird about this particular session is if you notice, most of the voices that come through are female voices, and we are in a female wing, the female side of Edinburgh Manor. And I just find that interesting.
Already within a matter of minutes of turning on the spirit box, we're getting clear responses directed at us. These aren't radio stations. I mean, the spirit box is on AM in reverse. So technically there shouldn't be any legible noise coming out of that whatsoever. You shouldn't be able to understand anything that's coming through that box. We do that on purpose, so that way that's one less thing that we have to debunk. The fact that it's on the AM station going backwards, and we're hearing names like Peter and Stephen, I did already. How do you explain that to somebody?
How many spirits are here right now?
Do you want us to leave?
Yeah, I'll leave. What happens if we don't leave?
Michael, I just heard Michael very faintly.
Can you keep making that light up if that's you? Over here? Where? In the hall.
Here in the hall?
If I set a device out there for you, will you make it light up?
So another cool thing about this particular session, if you listen, you'll notice that it seems spirits are talking about us amongst each other, and we're hearing that. Mike asked how many spirits there are. It said 40, and then another spirit corrected that spirit and said, no, there are 30. And that's just like, it's so crazy to me.
Usually it's not in our nature to provoke things when we go out on an investigation. We try to be as respectful as possible because we don't know the entire situation of who is there or what is there or why those things happen. But when you travel halfway across the country to go to a state's most haunted location or one of the most haunted locations, you tend to push yourself a bit to try to get evidence or get a response. So I wanted to see if I could get any kind of activity by asking, what's going to happen if we don't leave? And sure enough, we get a very sarcastic reply of, oh, they're those kind of people. I don't know how you explain that to somebody. I really don't. I don't know how you watch that back and don't think of that as a direct response. It was directed right at us. And from there on out, that whole night, right from that moment, things only ramped up and got more and more intense.
Did you hear that?
What?
I heard like a scream or a groan come from like down further.
Like down that way?
Yeah. So as the spirit box is going, as you can hear, I heard like a wailing, a man yelling or something. It was definitely a man's loud voice coming from down the hallway. Did you hear that?
What?
I heard like a scream or a groan. Did you hear that?
What?
I heard like a scream or a groan.
What's strange about this whole situation is Ethan hears that voice, not a minute later you hear this scream, this screech of a woman. And it sounds like she's screaming out for help. It sounds like she needs help.
Coming from like down further.
Like down that way?
Yeah. We weren't getting any responses in the room where the incident with the man happened. So we decided to pack up and go to the toy room next door where a spirit by the name of Susie is said to be. Susie was the first orphan on the property and she was just left there by her parents. And I'm not sure if she died there or not, but her spirit is said to be there, and there is a bunch of EVPs that I caught in the toy room, and it's a little girl's voice.
Initially, we weren't getting much once we set up in this room. After sitting in silence for nearly an hour, things began to pick up. This portion's audio is boosted specifically in the quiet moments. Listen closely.
Can you give us a sign that you are here? Can you roll one of these balls or balloons?
There is a lot of noise going on around us in this particular room just because the one window off to our left is open and we are out in the country, so there's bound to be insects and all kinds of other things that make a lot of noise throughout the night. But you can still clearly hear the noises that are going on inside of the building, particularly the loud taps, the loud bangs, the loud knocks.
Is there anyone else here besides Susie that would be willing to talk to us? Can you come over and maybe play with one of these toys or set off one of the devices we've set up for you? Is there a cricket up in the hallway? Did you hear that?
Is that those bells?
I don't know.
I got chills.
Me too.
So while we're sitting there, we're just listening to the sounds around us. We're trying to be as quiet as we can, occasionally asking questions, but mostly just being silent for the sake of listening for evidence. During that time period, I hear what sounds like a cricket or something. It made like a rattle noise, but it came from down the hallway. Once we thought about it for a minute, we remembered that walking into the building, getting the tour, there were a set of bells hanging on one of the door frames, right at the entrance, right next to home base. And I actually rattled them a little bit, walking by them to see if they still worked. Looking back at that situation, it makes you think, did something move the bells that were down the hallway, or was it just a bug?
Can you do that again if that was you, please?
Unfortunately, throughout most of this episode, there are segments within Edinburgh Manor that had to be completely cut simply because I was having probably the worst audio issues I've ever had while doing an investigation. And I have no idea why. I can't really explain why these audio issues were happening. I just know that since returning back from Edinburgh, they haven't happened. I've tested it numerous times, and I can't reproduce the audio issues that I was experiencing while at Edinburgh. This one in particular really surprises me because if you listen closely in the static, you can hear a voice. It sounds like a voice is trying to talk to us through that static. So there are a lot of audio issues present throughout this video. I did try to clean them up as best as I could, but I left this one in intentionally just because of what we hear in the noise.
Can you do that again if that was you, please? Can you do that again if that was you, please? Wow, right as that like tap outside happened, that went off. What do you say we move up to the second floor?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Maybe go to the blue room or coffin room.
Yeah, let's start back there and work our way forward.
Yeah. All right, Susie. Well, if you want to come with us upstairs, you're welcome to. Or we're gonna pack our toys up and move along.
Right before packing up and heading upstairs to begin testing in the funeral room, I captured probably one of the craziest EVPs that I've ever heard personally. It's so clear, it has intonation, it has a human voice, and clearly it's not us because Ethan and I are both standing in the frame. I heard something prior to it happening. I thought I heard hey or hello or something like that.
Just heard someone say hey.
Did you?
Yeah.
Looking back at the footage, reviewing the evidence, I mean, I stopped dead in my tracks when I heard that. It's so clearly, please save us.
Just heard someone say hey.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you say that?
What?
I heard a woman like cackling or something. Yes.
What?
Yes.
Maybe the mics picked it up.
Once we finished the test in the toy room, it was time to head up and investigate the funeral room, as we like to call it. It's a very creepy room with a full-size casket and a mannequin inside of it, and it's set up to be like a viewing room. I don't know why that room is there. I don't know if maybe the property owners found that stuff laying around and set it up to be that way, if somebody else went out of their way to do that, but either way it was super creepy, and it was the perfect place to investigate.
In this room, we use an app called Necrophonic. It generates pieces of words, vowels, stuff like that. There is no word bank at all in the app. And the theory is that spirits can manipulate to say full words. So if you hear a word come from Necrophonic, that's not supposed to happen. I can get the skepticism towards it, but it's no different than an SB7 spirit box in my opinion. I've caught some insane responses with Necrophonic, and if people want to, believe it, that's up to them. In my experience, it's legit.
this device I have in my hand will give you a chance to talk to us. We're gonna try and do our best to understand you. Is there anyone here with us right now? Rick? Is there a Rick here?
Right then and there, the REM master starts going off. And from there on, we start getting responses through necrophonic that are directed towards us.
Anybody fight me? Is that what it said?
I don't know. Could you make that device beep again? Oh. Thank you.
So for those of you that don't know what a REM master or a REM pod is, it's a device that generates its own electromagnetic field, and in theory, when a spirit comes in contact within the range of the field around the antenna, it will spike it.
Why don't you come sit down and talk to us?
Do you want to talk to us?
Vicious.
Vicious?
I said vicious.
We're not vicious. Are you vicious?
Are you upstairs with us?
Yeah.
Coming? Who's coming?
Gina?
It's telling us that a bad man is coming. He's coming to get us, or coming towards us. And right as that happens, the REM master starts going off again.
How do you feel about this coffin in here? Does it upset you?
Sure.
Sure.
So now we're getting these direct responses upstairs, also in the funeral room, just as we were down in the women's ward and in the toy room. It just constantly, it keeps going. It doesn't stop. It's every room, every spot that we go to, doesn't matter where we go in this place, everything is active. Some of the responses that we got are just, they're indescribable. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it other than it's just the craziest shit that I've ever seen.
To your left.
The responses that we get, that Mike says out loud based on what I was asking, and vice versa, it's mind-blowing.
It feels almost like the tips of fingers just brush up on the back of my neck. And it's just very light, but it's enough to create pressure and to absolutely scare me.
Oh! No, 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 no.